Anyone there?
Close to the Sun is a first-person horror adventure game developed by Storm in a Teacup. Well, maybe not so much horror. I was surprised to find that they're an Italian company because for once I didn't notice any strange accents or out-of-place dialogue caused by a translation issue. Having a properly localized version of a foreign indie game is not something I'm used to. This game takes place in an alternate reality version of 1897 during the technology wars between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. We start as a woman named Rose Archer is reading a letter from her sister pleading to visit aboard the world's largest ship, the Helios. After reading the letter, you can peruse her cabin, and it would appear that she's already started this journey. Further investigation proves that not only is she already on a vessel headed for the Helios, but it's an automated vessel. The other thing you might notice is this game looks darn good. In other games I've spoken about, I mentioned things like the heavily decorated vintage motif, and this game is no exception. Oftentimes I find myself wandering past environments that developers painstakingly created, but that wouldn't be true of this game. I spent much of my time admiring the environments in this one. After roaming about the area for a while, Rose pushes the button on her boat. She initiates the automatic docking sequence. This shot of the smaller vessel heading into the giant ship had a real Close Encounters vibe to me. It's a pretty strong start. Once inside the Helios, you're bound to notice something that many of the other commenters on this game mentioned. It looks like BioShock. My initial impression of that statement was to dismiss it, as BioShock did not invent Art Deco. It merely utilized it. Having said that, parallels can easily be drawn. Instead of investigating an underwater paradise turned hell world, it's a floating barge. The environments are lonely, as Rose has arrived post-collapse. Upon crossing the threshold into the ship proper, she's greeted by the word quarantine scrawled across the walls in blood. Early on in the game, you'll meet no other people. However, there are signs of life on board. The gameplay consists of walking throughout the environments and picking up collectibles and artifacts while solving simple puzzles. You can sprint or interact. Those are your two buttons to work with. For those that scowl at adventure games and lament their lack of interactivity, then you should stay far away from this game. Early collectibles reveal that many people on the ship have been on the hunt for some kind of spy. Many of the memos contain references to a saboteur or some kind of Edison agent. In this world, Tesla has seized control of most of the world's energy production. Many of his famous theories have been decisively proven true, including free energy, some kind of death ray meant to bring world peace, and also the aforementioned boats that pilot themselves. These features are managed by harvesting the energy from the air itself and then transmitting it by radio signal. The real Nikola Tesla invented an early form of X-ray, which they discuss in this game as well. The real man has a wealth of material to make a fictitious version of him seem semi-realistic. Edison having spies and being involved in corporate espionage doesn't exactly fall far from reality now either, now that I mention it. After some exploring, you may find this room, an interrogation room. They really had to find out what this spy knew. Knowing what I know now, where the story takes me, I believe this might have been an innocent treated as a spy. It has a lock with 2 arrows on it. You can basically tinker with them until you find the right solution. You might find a memo to tell you the answer, but testing all possible answers will take mere moments. This is an early example of the type of puzzles you'll deal with. Sometimes it'll be a combination lock where the combination is written in someone's cabin nearby, or sometimes it'll be turning off levers after navigating bolts of electricity. I don't want to trivialize the game, but that's the gist of it. I still enjoyed it for this weird alt universe and beautifully adorned ship, but the most you get is those puzzles and occasional chase sequences. And these are much like the chase sequences that I've complained about in the past, where they're not very well telegraphed or signposted. I'll reiterate my case about chase sequences, since probably a total of 30 people have watched my prior videos on indie games. I love a good chase scene. But if you're going to have them, then you have to make your path legible so the player isn't dying going the wrong way. Also, you have to make sure the one doing the chasing is close but not capable of catching the player with one wrong step. Chase sequences are only tense the first time you do them. If the player is failing and retrying numerous times, then the tension is quickly replaced with aggravation. So yeah, in case I didn't make it clear, I had to do some of these chase segments multiple times, which peeved me a touch. There's another segment that annoyed me the most, but it's also a bit of a set piece, so I'll discuss it fully in spoilers, and I will only reference lightly here and in my summation. There's my ploy to keep you watching, I suppose. Eventually, Rose makes her way deeper into the ship and is contacted by her sister Ada, who's surprised that Rose is on the ship. She didn't send any letters. Spooky. I enjoyed this game, but I'm torn on how to talk about it. Where do I stop telling the story to get someone hooked while leaving plenty of meat on the bone? Instead, I'll stop here, right in the start of the second chapter. That's the setup. You're looking for your sister on the biggest ship in the world in an alternate universe after some kind of disaster has taken place. I've told you of the gameplay. One button. Left mouse click and shift if you want to add sprint. You know if you're the type of audience for this game. To be honest, I bought this game based purely off the art style. I enjoyed it in spite of my complaints. Your standards might be different. So now, I'll put up the spoilers tag, and you can come back to the timestamp for my final thoughts. See you there if you're inclined to believe you'd play it. After her initial foray exploring the ship, Rose is contacted by her sister Ada. Not only did she not send the letter, but she can't believe that Rose made it past the quarantine. Their signal degrades and cuts their conversation short. As she enters this destroyed ballroom, she gets glimpses of the ballroom as it was when it was lively, and then some kind of ethereal spirits. Ada contacts her again and asks that they meet in her apartment. She says that even though her present-day self didn't send the letter, that doesn't mean that another Ada from another time didn't send it. Okay, sis, you've been hitting the rainbow Jer-Bears a little hard. She then asks you to explore the ballroom and find a key to the railway to take you to the apartment district. The key to the railway is on a safe on the wall. The combo is written on a memo nearby. You get the picture. As you enter the elevator to the railway, you see blood trails revealing signs of distress from the past. Nothing to be concerned about there. Don't worry your pretty little head. Chapter 3 takes Rose to the apartment district to meet up with Ada. Ada encourages Rose on her alternate universe Bluetooth. A green tooth, if you will. Rose busts into the district and finds this scene.
How do I get out? Rose! It's gonna be okay. Rose, listen to me. You're having a panic attack. Just focus on my voice, Rose. Close your eyes and just focus on my voice. Breathe with me. One leaf in. One thorn out. One leaf in. One thorn out. One leaf in. There you go. Good.
Time is not a river, huh? There are a number of quotes this could be referencing, but the likely candidate would be that which is attributed to Marcus Aurelius. Time is like a river, made up of events which happen, in a violent stream. For as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and comes in its place. And this will be carried away too. The reason why I have attributed this quote to this is the fact that the titles of the chapters are all references to Greek mythology, the Border of Hermes, the Fire of Prometheus, home of Hestia. The ship's name is the Helios. They're all Greek religious callbacks, which were later repurposed by the Romans. Granted, Hermes would be called Mercury, Hestia would be Vesta, I believe. Look, I'm getting too deep in the weeds here. I'm way out of my depth. That's my logic. I've said in the past, I'm no scholar, and I think that can be considered pretty self-evident here. Continuing on, Rose continues throughout the apartment district finding different houses. Ada's apartment is in the Alpha Quarter. The problem being, the old Helios has seen better days, and you cannot navigate in a typical sense. Certain pathways have to be opened by turning on and off power and solving small puzzles utilizing clues found in the environment. I really enjoyed exploring around this area. This gives you the best understanding of what it was like for people on this ship, and also what kind of people were hired here. The start of the chapter has you exploring with a somber backing track that mostly consists of softly tapped piano keys. It feels pretty lonely. As you make some progress in your exploration, you'll get another call on her radio, and Rose assumes it's her sister. It's actually a man named Aubrey who's pleading for help from Rose. He has a bit of a cynical side.
Ada! Ugh, about damn time. What took you?
Hello?
Who is this? If you've harmed my sister, I swear to God I will break every bone.
I haven't harmed anyone, all right? My name's Aubrey, and it's really, really nice to finally talk to someone who isn't decomposing, you know? Never mind, sorry. But you have got to get me out of here. I'm holed up in the engine halls, starboard side, deck 82. Kind of trapped, actually. How soon can you get here?
Look, buddy, I can't make any promises. I'm going to get my sister off this thing, but if we can, we will come to get you too. How does that sound?
Oh yeah, of course. Don't mind me. I'll just sit here and starve. No problem. That sounds great. You know, Benny here in the corner died during the exotic energy leak, but he still has most of his spine intact. Maybe he can lend it to you so that the next time a person in need asks for help, you will have enough of a backbone to actually do something.
What the hell was all that about? Exotic energy?
If they're setting you up for a Bioshock-style turn where he turns out to be evil, they are certainly starting off with the most Dr. Evil-sounding motherfucker out there. He warns you about some kind of exotic energy release, but that's a problem for the future. There's a hotel section with notes at the front desk about a young visitor who stopped by and left stuff in his suite. Inspecting the suite reveals that the young man was Albert Einstein, who decided to leave in pursuit of an idea after a, quote, illuminating conversation with Rose's sister Ada, who is the lead researcher here on Helios. The place is filled with collectibles regarding all the inhabitants of the place, and some of them are figures in our reality. Hell, maybe all of them are. I don't know all the names of every prominent scientist from the turn of the century, after all. You can find the quarters of Aubrey King while exploring. The man who called you on the radio appears to have been recently demoted from the head of the weather tech division to head of maintenance. Ada tells you that her friend has the key to her room, so when you investigate, you find a threatening note from someone claiming that they know what she did. Going into the bathroom, I found a note from Eliza. It alludes to the fact that she made some kind of mistake. Perhaps she was the saboteur. It isn't so directly clear, or at least not clear what she did. She says only that it was supposed to be a delay for the test in exchange for someone's silence to stay aboard the Helios. What she did exactly is unclear, and what she was being extorted for is equally unclear. What is clear is what you find when you turn away from the note.
Rest in peace, Eliza.
Rose tells Eliza to rest in peace. Ada's spare keys are in this bathroom. I'll use this moment to speculate as Rose continues towards her sister's quarter. To me, it sounds possible that Eliza and Ada had an inappropriate relationship and she was extorted for it. Of course, I say inappropriate relative to the time period, as having a relationship with another woman would be considered just living your life to many people today. I did not find any other clear-cut evidence of this, but her having Ada's keys combined with her note revealing her feelings of alienation Just have that feel. Let's leave that as my head canon. Once Ada gets closer to Alpha Quarter, she sees someone roaming the halls, muttering, "The circle must be broken." Rose doesn't acknowledge this, but it is the first other person you've come in contact with directly, and it feels ominous. Rose makes it inside Ada's room. She's not there, but she wants you to find her secret with her notes. Present day Ada didn't send the letter to Rose. That means that they need her notes to enable future her to do this, or something of the sort. This requires solving a brief puzzle. Inside the secret room, Rose finds the notebook. I enjoyed this part with Rose toying with Ada.
How's it going?
Pretty good, although I'm afraid I found an error in your fancy calculations.
That would be the day. What did you find?
Well, you've got massless known vectors intersecting with relativistic spoon dimensions.
None of what you just said makes any sense whatsoever.
Makes just as much sense to me as this notebook.
This is flashes of some of the better writing. The plot in this story interested me, but much of the sisters' interactions lacked much characterization. As Rose leaves Ada's room with the notebook, she gets a call from Nikola Tesla himself, who threatens Rose and advises that he plans to keep Rose and Ada in their strict quarantine, and he can't allow what's gone wrong with the ship to escape. He locks her into the Alpha Quarter. Again, an ominous sign. Aubrey calls her and makes Rose promise that if he breaks the quarantine, she'll return and rescue him as well as her sister. Allow me to take a moment to retract my whole statement about the Marcus Aurelius quote about the river from earlier. I literally forgot that I found an essay on the River of Time by Ludwig Ostrog, which has a similar meaning as the Marcus Aurelius quote. At this point, I could delete all that crap I wrote in my script, but I've opted to leave it in to show you that I rate these things somewhat like a stream of consciousness. I'm flawed, and rather than try and hide it, I leave the evidence in plain sight, I guess. So anyways, Aubrey breaks her out of containment, and on her way to the railway station, she comes across Wild Haas again. Remember Ludwig's essay? Turns out this guy was the author. Aubrey opens the railway station so Rose can get to her sister at the biolabs. Once inside the gates of the railway station, it's time for our first chase sequence of the game. Ludwig is right behind you, and if you make one wrong turn or take a slightly indirect route, you will get gutted. Strike one, game. It's seriously not that bad, but it does really have bad signposting. There's also an obstacle you're meant to hop over, again, with one button, but it's so damn unresponsive. You're very likely to be smashing the interact button when you come to these interactable situations in the game, and normally it's just a small irritation, but it becomes a real pain when you're being chased and forced to play a segment over because of this issue. The remaining chapters are shorter, and I plan on speeding this up now. I'm already going far more in depth than I planned on, but being concise is harder than elaboration. Also, I'm bad at things. And stuff. The railway station has seen better days, and Rose doesn't make it all the way to the biolabs. Aubrey assures her that he will assist in guiding her path there while taking the long way. Aubrey keeps talking to someone named Benny in his conversations, and in one of them he reveals that Benny is actually dead and decomposing next to him. Aubrey has a few screws loose. Rose makes it through the railway tunnels and eventually the biolabs. There's this floating blue fog everywhere. This is the exotic energy leak we were warned of earlier. This is also likely why we keep seeing these strange glimpses of the past. This is also the reason for the quarantine. There's more to this exotic energy. Eventually, this strange beast emerges from it. Another chase sequence. You know my complaints by now. Your path is somewhat trial and error. See, I foolishly was trying to avoid running through the blue cancer air, seeing as that seemed bad. Turns out the optimal path led right through it. You get it. Aubrey refers to the creatures as temporal anomalies. He compares them to antibodies cleaning up the mess with it, which in this case is what the humans are. We messed up time. Cool. Rose makes it to surgical where Ada is. What a happy reunion.
Fucking thing!
Hey, language.
Rose! Oh my god. My big sister is here. My big sister is here.
Yes, she is. And we, dear sister, are getting out of here. Come on, how do I get to you?
There's a door on your right. Short corridor, stairwell. You can't miss it.
I will be right down. Ada?
I didn't do anything.
Ada! Get out! Get out now!
I can't. Rose, I can't. Rose, listen to me. It's okay. Really, it's okay. You're here for me. I will love you forever for that. But I need you to do one thing. Get my research, Rose. Save it. Go to the theater and get the second notebook. Together they hold the keys to everything. You can fix this. Promise me, Rose. Promise me.
Not like this!
Promise me, Rose.
No! Ada! No! I promise.
Okay, what a brief reunion. Rose has to get the hell away from the anomalies. Aubrey urges her onward. She promised to recover Ada's notes, and she'll do so. Aubrey continues to help her, so long as she eventually rescues him from his troubles. Aubrey's path to the theater with the notes unfortunately takes Rose past the core, which is the genesis of the troubles of the ship. It's been eating at the Helios from within for days, and it's been generating the exotic energy along with the temporal anomaly beasts. The alpha effects in this game, much like the rest of the art design, is really spectacular. The sparking reactor is immediately followed by a room that's engulfed in flames. Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. After traversing flames and electricity, Rose can get to the elevator at the theater. I was originally imagining more like a surgical theater, like where Ada met her end. No, it's quite literally a beautifully furnished theater. Inside the entry, you can follow the glimpses of the past, which showed Tesla leading Ada around upon her arrival. He offers her use of his private balcony. Guess where we're headed? It's clear from the conversations with Ada and Tesla, he had strong beliefs in her work, and assorted memos tell of Ada's brilliance. When we found the secret in Ada's room, she told us that the room was center stage. Inside her room, that meant that middle of her room. A radio in the balcony suite replays the conversation, and it's clear that this will be true of this secret room as well. The secret room is, indeed, center of the stage. We now possess both of her books of notes. Ludwig rudely arrives to chase us into the depths of the secret passage, and it would appear to be vastly more than a secret room. It's a damn labyrinth down here. Thankfully, this concludes the Ludwig saga as he finds himself a bit hot under the collar. I really wanted to find an excuse for a great Arnold line, but all the good ones didn't fit. Hell with it.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
Feels good that I took time for that. It's time to keep our promise to Aubrey. He sends an elevator for her, but she'd like another.
Oh, god damn it.
What's wrong?
There's... Ugh, gross. There's the body of a man crucified against the elevator wall. Is there a different elevator you can send up? I'd rather not.
It's the only one. It's the only one, Rose.
I hate this place. I hate this place so much.
Inside the elevator, Aubrey admits something to Rose.
I have a confession to make.
Oh?
I told you that I had a family, but I don't. That was a lie. I'm a liar, Rose. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Aubrey.
Glad to hear it, because I'm afraid you've got a bit of work to do before you can get to my end of the engine halls.
But of course I do. What a surprise.
Remember how we found a note in Aubrey's room about his recent demotion to head of maintenance division? Well, this chapter is filled with assorted maintenance reports written by him. He seems like a bit of a type A leader. Every single letter is filled with him berating his crew about how subpar their performance is and how poorly managed the facilities are. None of this should be surprising based on his conversations with Rose at this point. Rose makes it to the supersized electromagnetic distribution coil, which she decides to call Fred. It is malfunctioning. From this control room, she can finally see Aubrey. He wants her to sprint across and deactivate the machine while it occasionally pulses and fries everything in its direct path. I don't blame Aubrey for not trying to tackle this for himself, but I certainly wouldn't hold it against Rose if she decided against this endeavor. This segment is the one I complained about in the opening of the video. You have to make sure you dart from cover to cover while this machine pulses at irregular intervals. There are obstacles that require hopping over that I literally could never traverse, as the input never seemed to register. I fried my Rose numerous times. There were also a couple times where the autosave left me in the open as a pulse immediately fried me in seconds before I could possibly return to cover. I hated this part. I love this in concept as it's potentially tense and a beautiful set piece, but the execution left a lot to be desired in my opinion. Now that I know exactly what to do, could I do it faster and with less deaths? Yes, of course, but come the fuck on. Check this out. Eventually, though, I bypass this torture and turn the machine off. Finally, it's time to meet Aubrey in person.
Aubrey?
Hello, Rosie. I tried to tell you. I really did. I'm a liar, Rose. I've heard everything, every word, since you came aboard. From your first conversation with Ada to the last words she ever spoke. I even listened in on your conversation with
Aubrey.
Nicola.
What?
It wasn't Tesla's lockdown that was jamming your sister's broadcasts. That was another lie. It was me!
Why?
Because she took everything from me! Everything! I had his attention! I had his respect! But she took it all. I used to be someone aboard this ship. But now the time has come to take back. Starting with these.
If you do this, I will kill you.
Is that a promise, Rosie?
Scout's honor.
Cute. You forget that just like I led the exotic energy to the surgery room of your sister, so too am I leading exotic energy to you. Right here. You better hurry. Those things will be here any minute. Benny here will keep you company while you die. I instead will use these to save the day and reclaim what was mine.
While I was playing, I thought there was no way the guy on the radio was going to turn on me because this game clearly was going to draw BioShock comparisons from Jump Street. In the end, I think they successfully subverted my expectations by coming at me with the obvious. I mean, the guy sounds completely diabolical. All of the hints were that he was going to be the bad guy. I was sure he was who he pretended to be, a kooky, isolated scientist who had been trapped alone with the corpse of a friend. How effective you find that will be subjective. I'm leaving in my failed escapes from the Blue Fiends. I don't think I successfully completed one of these chase scenes my first time. Tesla saves Rose in the end. He mends her wounds as best he can. He leaves a note for her. Aubrey is going to try and close the rift while using Ada's notes, but Tesla is sure he doesn't have the knowledge to do so properly. Rose walks out with the goal to assist Tesla in stopping Aubrey, and on the way, she sees another glimpse of the past. It's her, carrying Ada. But how? She promises Ada that she'll get her notes and fix this. In order to do this, she must break quarantine. She escapes more anomalies on the way to the rail station. Some of the poor souls on this ship did make it out. Tesla calls Rose. Things don't look good. Aubrey is channeling all the energy being made to close the rift, but he's only exacerbating the situation. He assures Rose that he can close the rift with her notes as long as Rose can assist with Aubrey. The route to the Tesla Tower is another stunning sight. I'm not a very articulate writer, and I don't read in my adulthood like I once did in my youth, so I lack the necessary tools to express how impressive I found this architecture and overall design of this setting throughout the whole game. It was thoughtful and well realized. I played lots of indie games, and very few have this level of aesthetic cohesiveness. I may have misgivings about the gameplay elements or lack of certain characterization, but the art design really holds up as genuinely impressive. Continuing on, Aubrey knows Rose is coming and attempts to block off her path, but she's persistent and bypasses all of his obstacles. He closes a door, she goes through a vent. What's the saying? When life closes a door, it opens a window. Aubrey is confronted by Tesla, and Nicola asks for Rose's help. In the process of doing so, well, Ludwig's back. He stabs Rose in the hand and charges Aubrey. He finds it imperative that the cycle not be repeated. I guess if I looked like Freddy Krueger, I'd probably try and mend that future as well. Rose pulls a switch and cooks Aubrey and Ludwig. Tesla promises to take care of things and tells Rose to escape with the notes. She grabs the notes and makes a getaway in the elevator while Tesla does scientist things in the tower. During this elevator ride, it becomes clear that this tower will not continue to stand. Rose survives this elevator ride from hell and makes a mad dash. Tesla continues to give her instructions to leave, which is strange because there's no way he could survive that explosion, but there's no time for those kind of questions. Before I get to the conclusion of the story, I want to briefly mention the internal tube messages that Rose can find throughout the game. There's a tube message system throughout the Helios, and each chapter has a message to find. Early in the game, these messages are cryptic and unclear. By the later chapters, it becomes evident that they're sent by someone with knowledge of the past and possible futures. The last message reads, "You're almost me now, so guiding the younger us will be your future task. Listen to Nicola. It's going to work. We can fix this." The letters were clearly written by Rose herself, the same Rose who carried her sister from the surgery room to the base of the tree. It's time to execute this plan. Inside Nicola's quarters, there's an escape vessel that I was certain was going to be an actual time machine when I stepped in. She emerges from the ocean with Ada's notes in hand and a note written by Ada. Tesla greets her over the radio. He understands the research now, and he assures Rose that Ada can be brought back. The ending theme is actually a really great song, but I won't share it for copyright reasons. It felt like a proper reward for finishing the story, and I was satisfied with the ending. Some people might like a more comprehensive explanation of the actions after the sequence. I, for one, am glad they didn't elaborate more on the time mechanics. The message is clear. Rose is returned with the notes that can enable time travel, and in this universe, the past can be changed. That's good enough for me. Well, at least they claim things can be changed. As far as you know, they have at least some kind of time travel or dimension shifting or something, because Rose clearly came and moved her sister's body. Time travel is a tricky mechanic to do well in a story. In my experience, the more it's elaborated on, the more likely you are to introduce plot holes or other slip-ups that pull your attention to mechanics rather than the actual story attempting to be told. Those questions on their potential success or failure are more interesting than any concrete answers about the conclusion of those events would be to me personally. Close to the Sun is a game that's interesting in regards to a recommendation. There are certainly elements that are beautifully executed, but it also has its share of imperfectly executed mechanics and less than stellar characterization. In regards to the gameplay, as I discussed earlier, it's simple and not challenging. There was a set piece that I felt was poorly designed and required me to basically cheese the checkpoints. I played the entirety of the game, and I still don't know what Rose's interests are when not on board a giant monstrosity of a ship and looking for a sister. I know in everyday life she's a journalist, and she likes her sister. She seems honorable in her actions. I guess it's just kind of a shrug there. She has a couple of silly lines in conversing with her sister, but it's far from a wisecracking Nathan Drake type. She isn't the hyper-serious protagonist with a military focus archetype either. She's kind of hard to nail down. Some of the other characters leave me perplexed at their motivations as well. I didn't like the execution of the chase sequences, but the puzzles were simple but entertaining enough to make a quick diversion. As I stated in my opening, if you're the type to complain about lack of interaction in adventure games, this ain't it, Chief. Having said all that, the world they created was interesting. I was interested in the Helios itself and the world where it existed in. The art design made it a believable setting, and the game designers crafted a stunningly well-realized ship utilizing ideas from a real-world individual. My RTX 2060 and my 2700X got a workout even in 1080p. I find that Unreal Engine games usually give my system stutters when loading in assets while moving through areas, and this was true of this game. I probably should have installed it on my NVMe drive instead of my SATA SSD, but I didn't anticipate such high-quality assets for an indie game. This isn't a critique of the game's poor optimization, as this was my lack of foresight, and it's typical of games made in Unreal Engine. I was continually impressed by how beautiful all the environments were from the start to the end. The plot of the game interested me, in spite of all the negative opinions I expressed about characterization, yada yada yada. Also, Rose was likable. She wasn't the most deep character, but I didn't mind inhabiting her visage for a while. The whole experience took me about 5 hours or so, and it makes it easy to meander through. This story incorporates elements from an alternate reality with some kind of past/future tech thing going on. It also incorporates elements of time manipulation. I find it best to go with the flow while experiencing stories like these. I think of Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeting about the scientific inaccuracies of Star Wars while watching them. Those inconsistencies are surely to be found if combed through with a critical eye, but you're only ruining your own fun for yourself if you choose this approach. Follow the story where its author wants to take you, and you're more likely to find enjoyment. If the caveats I've listed don't scare you off, then there's something you might enjoy here. I'm glad I spent time with it. Sometimes I find myself being more critical in my delivery than I was while playing the game. I enjoyed my time with Close to the Sun. It didn't outstay its welcome, and I played it in prolonged sessions. I generally play in bursts of an hour or so, as I have minimal time for games as a parent these days. I know I'll express this often, but it should be said. I beat this 5-hour game in 2 long sessions, so I think I'll leave that as my endorsement. Thanks for stopping by. I have all the footage in the can for my story recap of Final Fantasy VII. I'm working on my script at the moment, but I figured I'd put out something a little bit shorter and easier to manage, in hopes I could get it out by the end of May. My goal is to get at least one video out every month this year. We'll see if I can manage that. I appreciate my small but loyal little group I've got going on here. Thanks to everyone who's come and subscribed and then watched other videos. It keeps me going. I may have started making these videos as a challenge to myself to keep my mind sharp, but having people watch them gives me further incentive to continue. Peace in the Middle East. Rain in Spain. Word to Big Bird.